Tihei mauri ora, ko rupehu te maunga, ko hautapu te awa, ko Ngāti Tumataungi te iwi, ko Dion Jensen aho. Salamat pagi from New Zealand. It's an absolute honour to be here supporting this team. And I love the frame ecosystem. This is an ecosystem where globally we really need to get together and look after each other. Specifically myself, I come from a military background, the army, police, close protection, security risk management investigations at high levels before I came across into corporate. So I've dealt with crisis my whole career, and now I speak and I inspire and I motivate after I'd finished all of this training. So now with COVID-19, I've been asked to come back and share crisis leadership. Now, for those of you on this webinar, you're already leaders because you're leading yourself and you're leading your families. And some of you will be leading organizations. So I have a different perspective, and everything that you'll see in regards to my Line Academy is I'm very bold. So when I'm called in, and I'm generally called in when something is going wrong. So I'll get called in as a consultant, I'll get called in as an advisor to say, this is all going wrong, what do we do? Then I step in there and I lead that crisis. And I enjoy that. So you'll see with the line, I'm very bold. So when I turn up in regards to crisis and everything that we're dealing with, I always say two things when I start. I'm not afraid, and I know exactly what to do. And I can say I'm not afraid because I know exactly what to do. So I want to acknowledge firstly that the primary emotion that we're all dealing with is fear. So when it comes to fear and mental health and how people feel and how they act afterwards in crisis, all the way from fear to panic, and we've seen that, that's my forte. Fear is my forte. I'm the clinically endorsed author of the VIP of Mental Health and also the good news about post-traumatic stress disorder. So this is familiar territory for me. So if you're wondering if you should listen to this big white angmo with the lion picture, I have an apartment in Johor Bahru. I was regional operations manager for APAC living in Singapore. And I'm here to share all of the things that may scare you and give you things to do. So the biggest thing I want to acknowledge firstly is it's okay to be scared. This is a very scary time for people in the world if you haven't dealt with this level of crisis. And I want to acknowledge also that people are going to be somewhere on this spectrum. You'll be either on this side, where you think this is all a big conspiracy and nothing's actually happening, or you'll be over on this side where you have actually lost family members who have died because of this virus. From total fear of death, all the way back over this side where people don't really care. So from the military side that I dealt with, it was always fear of death. People were always trying to kill us. So we lived under that emotion of fear, which became our best friend that we utilized. So when you're called to lead in those situations, you have to deal with your own fear. But here's a secret, and I would write this one down. What you're scared of right now, your people are scared of. And if you're someone at this end of the spectrum, like we are, where this is not bothering me in the slightest, because I know exactly what to do not communicate that way to someone that is terrified. Because this is terrifying to a lot of people. And by the same token, if you're terrified, don't discount what people say at this end of the scale. So perhaps the first thing I'd like everyone to think about is, where are you on this scale? Are you at the point of being absolutely terrified and you have no idea what to do? Or are you quite in control of your emotions and your fear, and you're coming on here to learn some tangible steps? Because the beauty of this particular webinar of the speakers that you have today, you've got leadership, emotional intelligence, and high performance. Someone's got to take the lead in crisis. Then someone's got to manage all of those emotions. Then someone's got to manage the performance to make sure we get the job done and we survive. And that's how I'll lead up in the first part. The Line Academy, all nice and bold. We're not scared of crisis, and we know exactly what to do. So there's 3 phases. And just for the record, for some of you in your browser, this writing may be backwards, it may be forwards. It's not actually for you to read. It's a gift for later. So when we share this recorded webinar, all of these slides will be here that you can keep and study in the webinar. So I don't expect you to be able to see this. I'm just putting it here for the recording, and I will talk through them for you. So the first 3 phases of crisis, first phase is just surviving. So everything's just gone crazy. How do we survive? Physically first, and then business-wise. The next phase of crisis leadership is regaining the initiative. Not sitting there and waiting to find out what's going on, but going out there and taking action, regaining that initiative. And the last phase is actually taking advantage. Now, let me clarify, it is taking advantage of the situation, not taking advantage of the people. Because there will be a lot of people, and we're all in business right now, you can do this wrong by selling solutions to people's fear. Don't do that. If someone is scared, get them safe. And then once they're safe, meet their needs. Once their needs are met, then we can train and we can move forward from there. So these 3 phases, I'll only be concentrating on phase 1 tip. And so the philosophy that I use in crisis leadership is the river, the rock, and the eagle. So the river is this river of crisis energy. And for this COVID-19, for some people at this end of the spectrum, the people that are now terrified and not knowing what to do, it came out of nowhere. It was like a flash flood that came ripping straight through all of our lives, and it swept a whole lot of people away. And a whole lot of people feel like that. They woke up one morning, their superannuation has decreased in value by up to 30%. They've lost their jobs, they've been locked up at home, they can't pay their bills, and it just swept straight through if you're at this end of the scale. It is a river of energy. For those of us that have seen this coming for a while and heard little things about that, we had positioned ourselves for when this happened. So we would never have any idea what the context is for crisis, but we know that crisis is always coming. The river is always moving. The river of life is always moving. Last crisis was all the bushfires in Australia. And everyone was all over the media and celebrities are coming on board and we lost all these animals. Who's talking about the bushfires in Australia now? Who's talking about all those people that all their houses are burned down in Australia now? They're not. Why? Because the next crisis has come down the river, which is COVID-19. Once we get through this, it will be something else, and it will be something else, and it will be something else. This river will not stop. So the key point here is to get the skills that you need to deal with crisis now. And that's why I'm only talking about phase 1. How do you survive right now? And the first thing you have to do, and the next slide I put up lists them all, which you may not be able to see, and I'll talk through them. But the first thing you have to be is you have to be the rock as the leader. That's the rock. In the middle of this river, while people are getting swept away, you have to be that strong, safe place. We all heard all the catchphrases before this happened about vulnerability and leadership. Vulnerability will get you hurt or get you killed in the middle of crisis. Now is not the time to be vulnerable. Now is the time to be strong and to show courage and to show clarity and to stand up as a leader. And for all your posts about leadership that you've been selling yourself for, stand up and lead. There are people behind you that are relying on you. So this is the lion bit coming out. If you want to call yourself a leader and you want to lead in crisis, then you got to stand up and lead. You have to be that rock for your people. So you get all your people on that rock. You have to know where your people are and what state are they in. So in a military term, we call that a lock stat, location and situational, location and status. So I want to know where all my people are. I want to know, are you safe? And then we go into Maslow. Do you have somewhere to sleep? Do you have enough food? Do you have enough money to pay for food? And then do you have enough money to pay your bills so you can survive? That is the first step if you're a leader of an organization right now. And if you haven't done that, hang up on this webinar and go and do it. And then watch the recording later. You have to do that for your people. You have to say, right, we're in crisis, look at me. Don't look at the river, look at me. And then the last one is the eagle. You got to let the eagles go now. And that will give you vision. You've got to start thinking ahead now. I've already planned out my 2021 posts. So I'll be doing a whole lot of social media posts dated 2021, looking back on where we are now. Who did what, who didn't. Because I've always set the eagles free on that vision, because we've got to have somewhere else to go. Otherwise, we will stay right here. Okay, so my energy is quite strong, and I try and tone it down for the Asian market because I can scare some people. But I'll tell you what, they're already scared. So you have to show strength stronger than what they're scared of. None of this scares me. So let's look at those 10 steps. These are the first 10 steps that you do in phase 1. And you can watch the recording, and we'll share all of this with you later. You can go for it in depth or as a workshop later. So I would just ask everyone that's watching this, just take a deep breath and breathe out. Okay, that's Dion being the lion and making a lot of noise and showing the strength of this energy. All right. So when I walk in and I start saying, right, listen up, this is what we're going to do. People listen. All right. So I don't care what they're saying on the news, and I don't care what they're saying now. Right now, this is what we are going to do. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at these 10 steps. So the first one is you have to be that rock in the river as the leader. You have to go out to all your people and say, this is scary. I acknowledge that it's scary, but I know exactly what to do. Where is everyone? Are you okay? What do you need? And that's the VIP of mental health. What is their identity? They're your people. What is their value to you? It better be very, very high. What is your purpose to those people? Keep them safe in phase one. The next part is we must use the river's energy to control that focus. Now, every time that there is a media release, it shifts focus back to this crisis river. So every time someone comes out and says, latest studies have said, the latest update, this is how many people have got COVID-19. This is how many, it's shifting your people's focus back to that river. Every time that happens, you use that to bring focus back to yourself. Hi team, I just saw the latest update by the Prime Minister. How that relates to us is this. Use that energy to bring focus back to yourself. You've got to be that rock. We're still in this river, all right? The next one is you've got to keep the river in context of everything else that's going on in people's lives. Right now, there are people that COVID-19 does not affect at all. Not interested in hearing about it. They're carrying on quite nicely. And for other people, all their focus is in on this. When the energy starts dying down a little bit, bring the focus out with your people. Touch base with them. Is everyone okay? Great. Right. So give me some positives. Start shifting that focus away. Widen that vision. Why? Because we're in a state of fear. We have tunnel vision. We've got to widen that vision to break that tunnel vision. Start looking and listening in positive places. Anything negative will drive their focus straight back to that river. In a military concept, if there's a whole lot of people shooting on this side, if someone's dealing with that side, you don't sit there and watch what's going on. You check the other side and you're watching the other flank. So while everyone's focusing on COVID-19, half of my team, my Eagles, they're gone. They're way over the other side. We're securing contracts with other people. We're creating more content. We're already working with other people because I'm the only one out there that's making noise in my space. I've stood up as a crisis leader straight away and said, right, this is what we're going to do. My team's already at phase 4. They're off as part of this. So if you don't shift the focus and you don't widen that vision, people stay stuck in this river. And has anyone ever stood at somewhere high and felt that feeling of sort of, wanting to sort of leap and fly? That's what this crisis thing will do. It'll try and bring your attention. The next thing is, as this river comes through, and this webinar is a great example, is look for all of those jewels of opportunity, those jewels of relationship, those jewels of networking, those jewels of content, those jewels of ideas, all of these things that have been uncovered by this river. I would not have met Intan or Dirk if COVID-19 river didn't wash through and pop up these 2 diamonds. I already knew Nurse, she was already a diamond, so when she rang me, I just said yes, and I didn't even know what I was doing yet. Because that is a relationship that we have. And this river, even though it is scary for people at this end, for those of us sort of in the middle, look for these jewels. Your network and your relationships will carry you through this. And if you don't have any, reach out to us. It doesn't have to be business-wise. If you're scared, Dion, I saw the lion presentation. I have no idea what to do. Can you help me? Of course I will. So reach out, look for those jewels that are uncovered. Now we get into the bit that I really, really enjoy. Because that bit, I just go out there, I'm just loud, I'm not scared, we're going to do this, and we do it. But this bit is about empowering your people. Don't sit here and do nothing and just keep updating your people. Start empowering them now. Now, financially, as an organization, you need to keep operational. We all get that as speakers and trainers and consultants. But right now is when you barter. This is when you barter. This is when you come to any of us and say, Dirk, I need access to your custom performance coaching. I don't have the funds right now, but I want to give my people something right now so that they're empowered for when we're ready to go. What can you do? And start training your people now before they can get across the river, which is phase 2, getting across the river, right? So start empowering them now. There's plenty of free courses. We have plenty of free content that we can help with, but start empowering them. What does that do? It shifts their focus away from the river. It closens the relationship between you and your people, keeps the focus on the leader, and it starts empowering them for the next step. And we're really starting to take the power of fear off us now. And then when something else happens, we get drawn back to the river. We go back to stage 2, use river's energy, bring the focus back, and keep heading in this direction. All right, so I'm seeing some nodding there, which is good. It's very weird talking to the computer. Right, once you've trained, I'm really excited to hear Dirk's presentation after this, because once you've trained people, you have to then rehearse. Right, let's war game this. Let's scenario this right now. Let's say, for argument's sake, that we're now allowed to go back out again. Who are we talking to? Who are our clients that we're going to speak to? Are we dealing with wholesales? Are we shifting industries? Let's practice that right now. You be this person. Let's go back and forth. Start rehearsing what that's going to be for when we go and do it. Let's start rehearsing crossing that river. So when this all dies down, we're across the river first. We are pre-positioned. We have an advantage, which is where my people are sitting at the moment. So as a leader, start empowering them. Now, Nur knows my personality, and I can be quite challenging. So I'm going to throw a challenge out. I'm a leader. I'm ready to compete. Now, this is a battlefield. We've got to go out there and we've got to fight and compete for our people and for our families. So here is my challenge when you go out there, is who's standing up and marking their position. I walked out here and put a stake in the ground and said, I'm going to talk about crisis leadership because I've led in crisis. And Intan said, I'll help you manage your emotional intelligence for your people. And Dirk said, I'll help you manage their performance. Stand up, put a stake in the ground. But empowerment is not an online course. So all the trainers on the webinars went, here's my challenge. Empowerment is taking a power that, one, you possess in the first place. You've got to have an ability or a skill first. And you must take them through a process where the other person gets that power, and you're tracking to make sure that they've got that competency so that they can then take that power and use it. Now, I do international speaking, inspirational speaking, I can speak and I can inspire people. That is not going to transform or give anyone a skill. Skill and empowerment comes from training, facilitating. Online courses are great. I have online courses. They're information. They're pre-qualification. So that when they come into the training, I know who I'm dealing with, and we take them through a training path mapped to a competency. So empowerment is giving someone power. Not talking about your power behind the screen, giving your power to someone so that they can use it. All right, so apologies if I insulted anyone, but that has to be thrown out there. Now, this is an interesting one by culture. The next bit is you've got to get in close. You've got to pull your team in as close as you possibly can. You have to connect as deeply as appropriately, because there's boundaries here, but as deeply as you can. Because when it comes time to say we are then going to move, so I've been the rock, I've shifted the focus, I've empowered my people, we're practicing and rehearsing. I'm going to ask these people who have just been terrified of this river coming through and what just happened to come with me and cross the river. Because if we don't cross the river and move forward, we're going to die. Our business will die. If we don't adapt and move forward now, you're going to go out of business. That's the reality. Adapt or die. And then so when we get in really, really close, this is where you really need to know your people inside out. And at this point, I want to make a differentiation now, because this is where people get it wrong as a leader. A leader is the person out front that is keeping the focus. Look at me, come with me. The moment you task someone else to go and do that, you are no longer the leader. You come to the back and you are now the commander. All right, people aren't following you. You are given a direction now, and you've gone from being a leader to the back. Now you're the commander. I'm the board of director, or I'm the CEO, and I am tasking my general manager to go out there and lead. Now that general manager becomes the leader that you support and you command. That leader and that commander cannot manage the mental health, the emotional health, spiritual health of your people. Your managers have to do that. That's why they're called managers. All right. So as the leader, keeping focus up here is mental. Your mental health is keeping focus. What you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're saying is all up here. That's why it's called headquarters. That's where the leaders are. Headquarters up here. Leading, commanding, keeping us moving. The managers, they manage this. And this is where someone like me as the leader then hands that over. This is how you keep safe in phase one. This is how you get ready to move. And I'm all ready to move. Now my manager will take over, looking after our people. In the military, it's the same. The section commander is in charge. The 2IC looks after the welfare of the team. Whatever your business structure is, you have to know the difference between leader, commander, and manager. Don't mix those up. Crisis is no time to be vulnerable when you're leading. You can be vulnerable when you're managing. You can say as a manager, I'm scared too, and I'm worried about my family. My mother is immune deficient. This is her normal life. So of course I'm concerned for my mum. But I can't manage it because I'm leading. My sister manages that. So you have to understand the difference between leader, commander, and manager. So the next stage of what will happen is when we go into phase 2, and that's about regaining the initiative. And so the last point before I hand over to Intan is the last thing you do as a leader is you check, and you recheck. As we start moving and crossing this river, gaps will appear. This is when you need to be very switched on, because the next wave could be coming down this river. And you need to check their physical well-being. Where are they? Are they okay? Do they need anything? You need to check their mental well-being. Where is their focus? And that's where you stay as leader and commander. And the next thing you check is their emotional well-being, and after that is their spiritual well-being, which we'll cover in a different webinar. So it's an absolute honor to come back here and serve my family in Malaysia. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to sit here with a notepad and pen, and I'm going to have my eyes glued to Intan, because I know how important it is to manage your emotional intelligence, because if you don't deal with the emotional side of what we're dealing with, you're not leading anyone anywhere. And then once that's done, Dirk will tell us how to get ahead. So thank you if you're still listening. And for the record, I was actually born in Singapore. So naughty if you call me an Angmo under your breath in the back here. And it's been an absolute honor to come here and serve. I'm not scared. I know exactly what to do. And what I'm going to do next is hand straight across to Intan. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Thank you, John.